It's not easy. It's hard seeing your child in pain, and it's hard navigating through sickle cell disease. My name is Jaimee Roque.
My name is Reagan Roque.
And I have 2 sons with Sickle SE Disease.
And I'm one of them, and it's very hard to have sickle cell. It's very painful.
Okay, so how's it been for you, like, having sickle cell? How old were you when you were diagnosed with sickle cell?
I was diagnosed when I was born, but the doctor told my mom that I'm not going to have any complications with sickle cell, but he was wrong, and pretty much all my life I've been having sickle cell, and when I was 5 they finally admitted that it's been sickle cell pain, and it took them 5 years to say that, and it was very painful. Those 5 years in school and in life, it was just painful.
How often do you have crisis?
I used to have crisis like every week, and I started taking a natural supplement called Even Flow, and it really changed my life. I spent 3 years out of the hospital, but I'm recently now in the hospital a little bit and then getting back out, and it still comes back to me. It's very painful, and I just wish it could stop.
So for you, Mom, how's it been for you, like, having the diagnosis?
Mm-hmm.
How was that, going to hospital?
Yeah.
The experience with your son?
Like Reagan kind of said, it was difficult in the beginning because they didn't initially believe. So he was diagnosed with the newborn screen, and they didn't believe it. So they redid the newborn screen multiple times to confirm that he has sickle cell disease. And part of the issue too was that SE is so rare that a lot of people haven't even heard of it. So then my husband and I both got genotype testing, so we could kind of just put all that to rest and confirm that we were both carriers. And like Reagan said also, that the initial appointments with hematology, they really did not fully educate us on the symptoms of sickle cell disease and what to look out for, because they felt that SE was going to be mild and that he was not going to have complications. And like Reagan said, he was having complications all the time. He was having pain crisis all the time, and they always thought it was, he got hurt playing baseball or something else was going on. And finally, when he was about 5 years old, his pediatrician really stood up for him and said, no, I really think this is sickle cell crisis that he's been experiencing. So even with all of that, even after that, when he would go in with pain crisis, a lot of times he has a hard time being believed, because his baseline hemoglobin is actually normal. It's 11, 12. Because he has such a high volume of hemoglobin, the blood tests don't show right away that he's in crisis. Like, his reticulocytes don't go up and his hemoglobin doesn't drop until maybe a week or 2 after he's already in pain. And so he would experience a lot of repeat visits to the ER or to the hospital, because he would go in and they wouldn't see an obvious sickle cell crisis on the blood work. So they would send him home, or just do a little bit for him, and we would have to come back. And then, like he said, we kind of started out of desperation, because he's not a good candidate for a lot of these, for hydroxyurea, because his hemoglobin already is really high. So out of desperation, I started researching different things I could do for him, and kind of came up with some natural solutions. And he kind of talked about some of the supplements that he takes. And that kept him out of the hospital for 3 years, which was huge, because we had at least, 10 ER visits a year, at least a couple hospitalizations a year. And so it was huge going 3 years, and now just with him getting older and his body working so hard growing, he's been having some pain again recently, and we've just, it's just kind of trying to figure that out. It's not easy. It's hard seeing your child in pain, and it's hard navigating through sickle cell disease because I feel like once you get a handle on one symptom, you get like, okay, I know what to do for pain. Then you get a new symptom like acute chest syndrome or something else kind of gets thrown at you, and you have to figure out how to deal with that symptom.
So can you talk a little bit about like sickle cell SE disease? Like, is there any different from any other type of sickle cell? Like, what's the difference?
Well, to be honest with you, they don't know a whole lot about it. Of course, I think a lot of moms or a lot of parents, when their child is diagnosed with sickle cell disease, the first thing they do is research it, and that's what I did. And 12 years ago, in 2007, when he was born, I could only find maybe 3 sentences about SE. It's a little bit better now, but for the most part, people have never heard of it. I've actually had ER doctors tell me there's no such thing, and they think that I'm making it up. And so because they haven't heard of it, they don't know how it's going to react. They don't know what to expect from it. And because of the high hemoglobin, they expected him to not have very many symptoms, but that hasn't been our experience. And I find that I think maybe in a way the high hemoglobin makes his pain crisis worse because they just last longer. There's just a higher volume of blood that needs to be cleaned out, like a higher volume of that sickled blood that needs to be worked through in the spleen. And so he'll have crises last 6 weeks, several weeks at a time.
Has there ever been you guys thought about apheresis?
That's never been offered to us.
Mentioned that?
It's never been. Because
it's like a blood exchange. I think that might be something that could work.
Yeah. So it's never. A lot of things just haven't been offered to us. Okay. And a lot of times when we go to the doctor, they try to find every possible thing it could be. For instance, last year he had it was like a crisis in his head. I mean, it was like he had this really horrible headache, and he said. It's like my sickle cell pain. He can identify the difference between his pain and sickle cell pain. He knows the difference, and he says my sickle cell pain in my head. And he's fully vaccinated, and they thought he had the measles. So, and they were doing all this testing for measles. They put him through CAT scans and MRIs and just different a whole battery of tests. And at the end of it, they said, well, we don't know what it is, so we're just gonna send you home. So he was admitted for 2 days, and they just sent us home because they didn't know what else it could possibly be.
But they never think about sickle cell per se.
Well, and I kept on saying that, and they said, well, it's not sickle cell related, and they lied to me. Mm-hmm. They lied to me about what his blood levels were, mm-hmm. and they said that his blood levels were higher than what they were, but when I went back, the labs, our hospital puts all the labs on online for mm-hmm. me to see, mm-hmm. But it takes like a week. Portal? Yes, and it takes like a week. So later on, once those got uploaded, I went back and I looked at them and I compared them to the very worst crisis he's ever had, and they were almost identical. And it's like, why didn't they go back and look and say, okay, here he was admitted for a sickle cell crisis, and it was, the doctors were saying, please take him out of activities, please don't do this, please don't do that, and that blood work is almost identical. Why is this, he's fine, go home, it's all in his head, but this was, please take him, don't ever let him play sports again, mm-hmm. kind of thing. So it's just it's a big battle trying to get, just to be believed.
Can you touch a little bit about the reverse racism that you guys mm-hmm. face? Can you, like, you know, what's your background, what's your husband's background, so that you can tell the viewers so that they understand that?
So, and that was something that we did recently. We did DNA testing, just out of curiosity. My husband's from Nicaragua, and they don't have a very good record keeping, and so my husband didn't know his full ethnic background. We just kind of did it out of curiosity and for our kids, so they can know their ancestry. And so my husband is like every color of the rainbow, but he's like overwhelmingly Hispanic. He's like over 50% Hispanic, and then like but he's like 35% European, but he's like 10% African. I am like 50-50 Irish and English. So the E trait, hemoglobin E, usually is associated with Asian populations, but that just didn't show up at all in my ancestry. So I don't really know where it came from. One doctor has suggested it was a spontaneous mutation in my family. So who knows? But we do get, there have been many times, there have been times where we go to the emergency room and the doctor will question me and say, are you sure he has sickle cell disease? And I'll say yes, and they'll try to say, you mean trait? And I'll say no, he has the disease. And they'll say, well, it's impossible for him to have sickle cell disease because you're white. And you have to do the education and say, well, it's people along the equator, and my husband has the S and I have the E, and that together makes sickle cell SE, and then that spurs a whole other conversation because they've never heard of SE. And actually, in all the hospitalizations and ER visits he's ever had, only twice race was not brought up. And we've even been told times that nobody takes us seriously because we're not black. And I mean, just really, they make a lot of comments to us about his race and my race, but you know, we're trying to dispel that, you know, dispel those misconceptions just by being visible and vocal. And Reagan's doing a lot of work within the sickle cell community here locally, and just raise awareness to the fact that it's a blood disorder, and it can affect, to be honest with you, you can't really tell somebody's race just by looking at them anymore, because my husband is very dark-skinned, but he has a biological grandchild that is blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and with him having the S trait, it's totally possible for this blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl to have the S trait from him. And you would just never know by looking at her. You would never guess that she is Hispanic with, you know, everything else mixed in. And so it's hard. People need to move away from looking at people's skin tones and saying that's what your ancestry must be because of your skin tone. It just doesn't work in today's world.
It's very hard to think because of my skin tone. People just think I don't have sickle cell, and sometimes I just want to ask them, is cancer just one race? No. Cancer, anybody can get cancer, anybody can get asthma. Sickle cell is just not a black person thing. Yeah, a lot of black people have it, but other people around the world, around the equator, that are different colors could have it, and it's just not one race. And it's very hard for me to hear them arguing with my mom, saying that my SE is not real and that I don't have sickle cell. And it's hard because I'm in there screaming out, crying sometimes, in pain while they're arguing, saying I don't have sickle cell, and I'm in there needing help, and they're just not going to help me because of what my skin tone is. And it's just very hard for me, and it's hard for me to think of how much my mom has to go through. It saddens me, and sometimes I wish it wasn't like this. I think people should know that that not just looking at a person, that's what they are, because my mom takes me to the ER, and my dad doesn't go with me to the ER, and they're just jumping to conclusions because of what I look like. So they're thinking, oh, he's just Hispanic, so he probably doesn't have sickle cell. They're just a fake. He's not really in pain, and I just wish it wasn't like that no more.
Okay. What about your brother? Does he get sick too?
My little brother, he does get sick, and he doesn't like to tell anybody, so it's very hard for us to know, but he gets crisis sometimes in his legs, his arms, and it's so bad that he has to like hit it against something for like the pain to just stop, and it's very hard for him because, well, he does gymnastics, and it's very like for sickle cell, like you don't want to overdo the working out because it could affect you badly, and he's over there pretty much overworking it, and I'm just scared he's going to get a pain crisis, and I just don't want my little brother to go through what I go through.
Yeah, his little brother he doesn't really complain. Like, and you just kind of notice, like he said, he feels pain in his foot a lot, and he starts just stomping his foot. But he doesn't really complain that much, and we just encourage our kids. But parents have a natural tendency to just want to wrap your kid in bubble wrap and never let them get hurt. Like, you just want to really protect them. But when Reagan was born and we got his diagnosis, my husband and I really decided that
I'm not going to be on the sidelines.
Yeah, we didn't want them to live their lives on the sidelines. We wanted them to participate and to live a full life in spite of sickle cell. And so sometimes there's just accommodations that you need to make.
Yeah.
Like, Reagan had to do a swim event for school, and we just had to get
the chlorine in the pool affects my sickle cell.
Yeah.
And that was for a week, and I was really scared that I wasn't be able to go because I didn't want to have a pain, and I didn't want to go into the hospital and put my mom through that. And I also feel bad for my little sister too, because she doesn't have sickle cell, but I think she has it worse than us because she has to watch us in pain. She has to go through us with the ER, scared that her brothers, something might happen to them, and she's always there for us, and I'm glad that sister's always there for us, and she's having to watch us in pain like this, and I don't think it's right for her to watch us, and I want her to know that we do care about her, and that I know she's a caregiver to us just like our mom, and she also she's like a part of like helping me out and my little brother a lot, and I'm glad to have a sister like that.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys' time. Thank you for the work that you do here in Texas and across the world, because this will be worldwide. So I really wanted to salute you for educating people about sickle cell so that they know that sickle cell it's not about race, it's about blood. And once we can say that and let people understand that, things will get better. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.